Today on Jurassic Architect, let's talk about making plazas and seating areas.
Hello and welcome back to Tricolor Gaming with me, Fletcher.
Making good guest areas for your parks is a great way to improve your overall park building ability, and that is what I'm going to be focusing on in this video. If you haven't seen my other Jurassic Architect videos, I'd suggest checking them out, and there should be a link in the corner for the playlist. So where shall we start? Let's talk about guest areas as areas in a park build. No zoo or theme park in real life is 100% rides and enclosures. Most theme parks and zoos will feature guest areas to break up the rides and enclosures, as well as providing basic guest needs. What we mean by guest area can refer to many things. It could refer to open plaza areas that provide open space. It could refer to seating areas for resting, but also for the consumption of food and drink. It could also refer to impromptu areas for viewing rides or enclosures. These might include shops and other basic facilities. Building guest areas into your park then can help spread your parks out over the area of the map, provide a degree of realism that helps your parks look more natural, and can also help with your basic park layout. When I'm thinking about guest areas, there are three ways that I try to implement them. Number one is to create guest areas around buildings where it makes sense. This includes around amenities, but also includes rides and around hotel structures. Number two is to create guest areas that function as unique elements of your park. This could include things like very large, elaborate, decorative path plazas, but can also include things like gardens, hedge mazes, or more elaborate invented areas. Number three is as a method of gap fill. Regardless of how well planned out your parks are, you will naturally end up with gaps or small areas that stick out. Turning these into guest areas is a good way of making use of the space. Let's move on to some basic tips and tricks when making a guest area. Tip 1 is very simple. Always ensure that your guest area, no matter what it is, uses a different color of path to the rest of your park. This helps make the guest area distinct from the rest of your paving. Also think about the color you're using and whether it suits the surrounding biome. For example, the Jurassic Park brown path is a bit too dark in my opinion for tropical or alpine biomes, but stands out well in the desert biome. The key trick, however, is to use the same coloured path for all of your guest zones. This helps to build uniformity and gives your park style. Tip 2 is to use decorations to divide your guest areas away from surrounding path. In essence, this means building walls, either from the planters sections or from the mortar wall sections or modded fences, to separate the guest zone from what is the main route through your park a guest will take. However, some guest areas may be too small for such things, which leads me to tip 3. Tip 3 is to use taller decorations such as tree planters, flags, banners, or light obelisks to frame a guest area. For example, you may have a thin, long guest section between two paths. Using the tall decorations at either end and in the middle helps to frame whatever seating you may place between them, again dividing them from the general path route. Tip 4 relates specifically to the choice of seating you make. Remember, we have quite a range of different seating types now that we can use. For example, don't just use the tables with open umbrellas. Add occasional tables with shut umbrellas to break up the uniformity and add some interest. Place benches where it makes sense. Use picnic tables, again, where it makes sense. With all these elements combined, let's look at designing some areas. Let's start with creating a guest area around some amenities. So here we are in game, and what I'm going to do to start with is build a guest area which you might use for your amenities. Now imagine this piece of path here is your main through path throughout your park, your central avenue, something like that. Now the first thing I would always suggest that you do is you never position your amenities directly on the main path. I would always suggest that you build them slightly off it. So that's what we're going to do here. We're going to take a different color of path. We're going to go up probably about 2. And just for the purposes of this demonstration, we'll just do a small area, just so you can see the sort of thing I'm getting at here. So here's your amenity. I'm going to put that there right in the middle. And what I'm going to do is surround it with path. Now obviously I am playing with mods on, so I can get to the path much closer than you'd be able to if you're not using mods, but I believe you can still get the path quite close to the side of amenities without it. And we're just going to fill in these gaps here. I'm actually going to leave a little bit of a gap in the front. So you can see what we've done is we've made it a different color, which separates this amenity off from the rest of the park. Now you could line the outer edge of this with fencing to separate it off even more, but I'm not going to do that. What we're going to do is we're going to try something a little bit decorative. So out the front here we are going to use this for plants. And we're then going to surround the edges with decorative pieces. I'm going to make use of the multi-wall sections for this, since I think it's the easiest pieces that you can use for this. There we go. So we've now walled off the guest area, and we want to make something, you know, a little bit nicer in the front. I think I'm going to use these slightly taller multi-wall sections here, like that. That gives some privacy for this area back here. And then we're just going to use this for some plants. So let's stick with some tropical palms. We're also going to put a few rocks down in here, just to let's go with the blacks, just to break up the foliage a bit. Obviously I'm trying to do this as quickly as possible without using mods, but you can see the sort of thing we're going for here. Now this is quite a big space here, so I want to kind of separate it into two. So I'm going to make use of planters. I have one on that side, on this side. There we go. So there we go. So we've divided this off into sort of two areas. And then we're going to make use of the seating, so we'll stick with the standard sort of tables and chairs. And we're just going to place 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Then we're going to switch to the ones which have the umbrellas not open. There. I would say you probably wanted to change the decorations to, say, yeah, those work quite well. And then we'll do something similar down the sides, so grab, say, some of these, and we're just going to place a few down the middle, so 1, 2, 3, and sort of 1, 2, 3. And then that gives us some more space, which we could use for, say, some picnic benches. We can place them in between the trees. 1, 2. 1 and 2. And you could then surround this with normal foliage, so something like that. And very quickly you have a nice sort of area for your amenity, and you can then go further. You could add lighting, or obelisks. You could add some obelisks in here. That. And already you've got this sort of nice walled off, separated area for your amenity. It just makes it not so, just plonked on the side of your path. It actually looks like it's being constructed with a purpose. And for guests to, make use of seating areas and such. And if you have mods, you can obviously go much further with this. But this is just a very simple, quick example of something that you could sort of construct. Let's move on, staying here, let's move on to, say, a large decorative plaza. Let's actually construct one off of this path. So let's go up one, and then we're going to, let's have a large sort of hexagonal plaza, or hexagonal, octagonal. So let's build up a octagon. So there's the outer octagon we have here, and we want it to be a little bit more decorative than that. So I'm going to go in one. Actually, let's make it two. And then we're going to fill the middle of each of these sections with a different colour. And we're going to have some that are paved. And some that are not. You could do it whichever way you like. And then this centerpiece, and then the middle we're going to switch to a completely different type of path. Maybe the white. There we go. And then we're going to turn these into little gardens here. So we're going to color those in with the mud. There we go. Now from here then you could do whatever you liked with this sort of plaza. This is a basic sort of skeletal plaza. You could leave it empty, but let's just do some decoration. So let's make these very simple rock features. And we're just going to chuck in some very simple planting here. Let's not use a tropical, let's use the Taiga. There you go, so some simple little gardens. We're going to put something in the center of this. So let's go with a fountain. Let's maybe not go with one of those. Let's go with something a little bit more interesting. that. I'm gonna leave this area open, but we're going to turn these side little sections into seating. Again, I'm gonna make use of the mods here just to do this quickly. If you're not using mods, obviously use the shorter sections. Keep them as close as you can. I just want to sort of demonstrate a rough style to you. Let me see if I can do one without using mods here. So I probably go with these very short sections. So 1, 2 does kind of almost complete it. You might want to stick like a tree or something at the ends. And then probably you could then fill in that bit with let's just do the same thing over here, just for symmetry. Okay, one side without mods, one side with mods. You see, there's not much of a difference between them. And then in here, again, we're going to put some seating. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, and then this one we're going to have no umbrella. This one we're going to have 1 and 2 without umbrellas, and 3, 4. Over here we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. Again, remembering to vary it up. There we go, a nice simple plaza there. And then you could take it one further. You could decorate the center more with more elaborate pieces. Whoops. You could put more fountains in. You could put more decorations in. You could put in a bunch of trees to sort of surround this. So, put them in the corners. Like that. You've still got that large central plaza, but you've got, you know, again, just demonstrating very quickly the sort of thing that can be done. And this is what I mean by a guest plaza. Somewhere that doesn't necessarily have a main purpose, but it would be there to provide somewhere for people to sit, a location for people to say, you know, we'll meet up here. You know, a staging post for going further into the park. Let's move on to the last thing, which is to look at gap fill. So gap fill is one of those things. It doesn't matter how good you are at building parks, you will inevitably end up with gaps. We've got some gaps here, but I'm also going to put in another kind of artificial gap. The sort of thing that you might get. Here's another example. So again, same sort of thing for these. Switch to a different path color. Let's keep using that pinkish orange here. There we go. And think about the space that we've got here. So for these thin sections, what I like to do is use them for trees. And we're going to use the trees as framing for other objects. So I'm actually going to go 3 trees per section. What happened with that one? There we go. And then in between those, you can put whatever you like. You could put planters. And then you could then put, say, a couple of picnic benches between the other 2. And you could separate them with just some lighting. Something like this square zone. Again, you could use a fountain here, but that kind of takes up too much space, really, I think. So what you could do is just turn this into another little seating area. Couple of mortar pieces, so we're gonna again divide it off from the main path. So we're gonna put a piece in there, a piece in there, and a couple of smaller pieces to divide them off. There we go. Gonna put a couple of trees in. Like that. And then again, we could use this for seating. We could use this for bench seating. Like that gives us a large area to play with in the middle, which you could then have for a statue. You know, we've got a couple of statues. You could put some modern art, the bias in modern art. You could put in amber here. We've got the Spinosaurus skull that we could put in here. You could still put fountains in here. Something I quite like to do, especially if you're using mods, but I think you could probably get away with it without mods, is to sort of combine fountains to make slightly larger sort of fountain areas. So you could phase them into each other, but if you're not using mods, now that's close, almost together, and you've got a kind of a nice little arrangement there, which you could improve with, say, some obelisks. Let's see how close we can. Maybe not obelisks. Could we get a plant pot closer? No. That's a bit annoying. About the round ones now. Again, if you're not using so those ones. So the wooden ones, you can get a lot closer. You know, you can make your own little water feature for the guest area, for some benches here. Filling in these gaps that you have in your park naturally with gap fill sort of guest areas can really help sort of make your park look a bit more spaced out and a bit more natural, instead of it all being really close together. And obviously these are just very fast, very quick examples, which I'm trying not to use too many mods to demonstrate. There's quite a lot of variation of guest areas in the parks that I've built, mainly thanks to being able to use mods. It isn't difficult to do, you just need to take some time to, as Eva is fond of saying, but I totally agree with, waste some space. The park doesn't need to be all dinosaurs. Just waste some space making decorative touches like plazas and areas around your amenities for seating, and gap fill. Instead of putting in trees everywhere, do something for your guests. And it really helps make your parks just so much nicer to look at. In all my parks, there are lots of examples of all of these sorts of guest areas, and I've been showing you all some as we've gone through this video. For more ideas, check out my park tours. Let me know in the comments what sort of things you'd like to see in future Jurassic Architect videos, and don't forget to give us a like and subscribe for more tips and tricks for park building. Until the next video, stay safe and goodbye.